When you start making a crossover, you tend to reduce your subjects a bit. You have to. You're probably not making a complex story, but a way to let characters and brands have fun. Sometimes you cut for time, or to excise problematic or challenging parts of a character's history. And sometimes you have to do the opposite and just start making stuff up, because there are characters who just can't work the way they are. If you want to, say, make a Sega-themed fighting game and include a character from a Sega racing game, you're going to have to get imaginative. Super Smash Bros., a fighting game crossover of its own, experiences this constantly. It brings video game characters from widely different genres into an acrobatic fighting game. A lot of them come from games that are not like that, and they end up pretty different from their original incarnations. Sometimes they're mined for tiny details, and those are fashioned into something workable. Sometimes they draw from sources outside their own histories. And sometimes they're built to emphasize their tone or attitude, or the tone and attitude of their games. And who better to explore the latter in our second episode of Fighter's Spirit than Smash Bros. Icon Fox McCloud. Fox is important to Smash. He always has been. He was one of the Series 4 original fighters. He, Mario, Donkey Kong, and Samus were the ones in the build that got Shigeru Miyamoto to sign off on the project. He was the first character Smash Bros. Guru Masahiro Sakurai highlighted in the Japanese website for Super Smash Bros. Melee. He's consistently been one of the best characters in each game, to the point where he's long been used as a caricature of competitive Smash. If we're being fair, his identity as a Smash icon probably eclipses the history and fame of his own series. And yet, it wasn't that way at the start. Star Fox 64 was a fairly huge hit for the Nintendo 64, and the original Star Fox from '93 was a technical marvel. By the time the first Smash was being made, it was an A-list Nintendo series, more recognized than Fire Emblem and more current than Metroid. Sadly, that was its creative and commercial peak, and after years of floundering, Star Fox now occupies a space meant more for curiosities. But when Super Smash Bros. First came out, that seemed implausible. Nintendo dorks saw 64 as the future. It's also a game that is, on its surface, not exactly a natural fit for Smash Bros. It's a rail shooter ship game, one that doesn't like to let its heroes get out of their starships. Star Fox 64 did feature a multiplayer mode that let you fight space tanks on foot, bazooka in hand, but it doesn't inspire confidence. Alternatively, you could imagine a modern interpretation of Fox who just shows up in his R-Wing, but that'd probably not look too hot either. Therefore, Fox represents the aesthetics of Star Fox and its ethos. It's Nintendo's take on Star Wars and Thunderbirds, a military space opera where you blow up dastardly villains and survive dogfights by the skin of your teeth. Which makes Fox McCloud Luke Skywalker, or Captain Kirk or Flash Gordon, a dashing space hero. He bounds across the battlefield with a space gun at his hip, an old-timey jacket, and a sense of cool. He has aerial attacks like the tornado kick that beg you to leap at foes in climactic sky duels. And how great is it when he throws a foe away, only to give them a parting shot from his blaster. Like Link and Samus, Fox is meant to embody an ethos of tough heroism, but he also has another role. The guy who's cool. There's also something neat about how Fox's specials are translations of things his ship can do. The blaster is a standard feature for space heroes, but it also brings to mind his R-Wing firing off laser blasts as it races over Corneria. The reflector is reminiscent of knocking back attacks with a barrel roll. And doesn't the Firefox look just a bit like a ship rocketing up or careening towards Earth? Fox doesn't need to fight in his ship. He's always got it with him. Though it does need to make an appearance in some fashion, the character is a pilot and from a game about piloting. That's where Fox's final smashes come into play, letting him exploit the vehicles he's driven time and time again. They're powerful, of course. The comically ungainly Landmaster is a joy to see in Smash Bros. Brawl, and the more direct R-Wing attack that replaced it in Ultimate has the kind of cinematic flair that Fox's games strive to recreate. But they also kind of have to be there, because at some point Fox is gonna have to get back in his ship, right? It's franchise branding, and it's an attempt to make sure that the coolness always stays active. So he represents a style, but Fox is also important as one of the series' true speedsters, a role he's held since his first appearance. He and Pikachu were only beaten by Captain Falcon in pure speed, and they greatly outclassed him at walking. Their moves were, and are, fast and direct. Pikachu is still very nimble, but it's been outpaced by several new fighters over the years. Fox and Falcon have only been surpassed by a scant few. McCloud also has great fall speed. In Ultimate, it's the highest of any fighter, which keeps him in constant motion. For casual players, it can even be a hindrance, since there's less time to fire off his incredibly fast aerial attacks. And that style powers his special moves too. Why is Fox's side special, the Fox Illusion, here at all? It doesn't really represent anything in the games other than maybe the conceit of a ship flying at light speed, so what's it for? Well, most importantly, it has mechanical value. Being a second recovery option and a blindingly fast move is good for getting around opponents and keeping up the pressure. But it's just one more way to make sure Fox is always outspeeding his rivals. Its cool, weird, translucent light trail holds for a moment, unable to even keep up with the guy who made it. Fox is about putting pressure on opponents with speed, and looking good doing it, and all his moves facilitate that as physically and visually as they can. His slowest move might be Firefox, and that's still a move where he sets himself aflame in a burst of energy. His moves all but dare you to try to keep up with him. This all leads to a character who can be overwhelming to play at a more casual level, and overwhelming to fight at a more competitive one. McCloud's got a fairly high skill floor for casual players, though he's considered much easier to learn for competitive play, especially for one of the only characters to be available from the start in every game. That makes him a bit of an exception to Smash's general clamping down on the barrier of entry. The thing is, though, that it's also a really good idea to have a character like that from the get-go. It lets some more experienced players start out with someone a bit more their speed, and it shows a bit of the breadth of what Smash is as a fighting game. And, well, it's kind of also helpful when that tougher-to-use character is someone who carries a bit less fame, someone who doesn't bring in quite so many fans from the start. Which makes it somewhat sad that, in a way, the starry state of Fox's career might make his place in Smash a bit stronger. It's not really likely anymore that Star Fox brings newcomers to this mammoth crossover, especially not compared to fighters from games that have redefined the medium more significantly or recently, and because of that, there probably aren't as many players likely to immediately choose this harder-to-use character, in the way some fans of Snake or Cloud rushed to Smash just to play them first. But he's always there to try out a bit later, once they've maybe gotten a better handle on the controls. That's not to say that Fox's appeal, or any character's appeal, comes solely or primarily from how many people enjoyed their game. Far from it. He looks cool and has a stylish, slightly retro air that's going to intrigue some players from the get-go. There are players who don't know him, but who will absolutely try the furry space hero just on those merits. And that's true of every character. It just means that Fox might not be many newcomers' first pick when they boot up the game, and given how he plays, that might be for the best. No matter where his series has gone or where it may go, Fox has comfortably built a home in Smash, largely from those qualities of his. He's garnered a broad swath of series fans, from hardcore players to 90s heads to people who just like his look. And it's notable that a lot of those fans like him independent of Star Fox. Super Smash Bros. Gives characters a stage that lets them show off in a way they might not be able to at home, but it also provides them with a new home and a new life. The way the character, their series, and this one all interact creates a fan-crafted mythology, and the longer you stay in that space, the greater the myth becomes. Fox, as a series staple from the very beginning, has become something of a legend to fans. There's an argument to be made that the crossover needed a character like Fox, and while other characters could have filled that role, Captain Falcon comes quite close actually, what we got from Fox is a lot. He gave us scrapes on the Ridge of the Great Fox, the Wombo Combo, and music from one of Nintendo's first orchestral scores. But he also shows how characters can excite and entice by emphasizing the feel and tone. Star Fox doesn't feel like other Nintendo games, and Fox doesn't feel like other Nintendo heroes. And in translating that, Smash created something entirely new, exciting, and distinctly cool. And, like Fox after a successful mission, we're going to fly off, regroup, and prepare for our next episode. Why don't you tell us about your own histories with Fox in the comments, and give us a like and subscribe. If you like this kind of work and would like to support us further, we've got a Patreon link in the description. For our Patreons right on screen, your generosity is deeply, deeply appreciated. This has been Wolfman Jew on script and mic, and NantenJex on edits and production. And always remember to return to the source.